Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
My name is Ariel. When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without my high school diploma. My entire life changed when I took a chance and got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I push through all the challenges.
Ariel, your success proves that what I'm doing as a teacher has real meaning.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
It's okay, TJ. We have no problem if you get your usher on with us to start the fast lane.
These are my confessions.
We are still getting to know TJ, the producer. We got to know Trey, then he grew up and he moved on to the morning warm-up, as did Ty Tracy, who had been working with us. So, are you a NASCAR fan at all?
Yes, I follow NASCAR from time to time.
Okay, gotcha. Do you have a favorite driver by chance?
It was Tony Stewart, but I think because I'm a Liberty alum, I've been following William Byron. I used to be a big Denny Hamlin fan, but
what all right. First of all, why they used to be a Denny Hamlin fan?
Well, it's just my mom. So he used to race under Joe Gibbs. My mom was a huge Joe Gibbs fan because she's a Commanders fan, has been all her life. So Tony Stewart was under Joe Gibbs. Denny Hamlin came when Stewart was still a racer. So Joey Logano was also there. So I used to follow and like Denny Hamlin, but I guess I don't know. Like I sort of got turned off, if that's the word to speak, so to speak.
You know, how do I say this? A lot of people believe that Denny Hamlin thinks very highly of Denny Hamlin. Is that part of your reasoning?
Not too much. I don't mind someone who's cocky if he's good, and Denny Hamlin sure is good. I don't know. It's just he hasn't been my favorite the last few times, and I think if I'm going to stick to one driver, I would prefer William Byron just because of the relation there.
Look, no fault, no criticism at all, TJ, because you are a Liberty University graduate, a proud one at that. You should be optimistic about their softball team chances against Oregon. We'll dive more into that tomorrow in the fast lane. Hopefully, prayerfully, but we'll see how it works. Dave Walls of ABC 13 WSET, we can connect with him as well to look ahead to that matchup. But from a Liberty standpoint, we'll grant you that. However, as Trey's guy, Stephen A. Smith, would like to say, listen to the morning warm-up, 7 to 8 a.m., right here on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports, if you want to know why we say check out the morning warm-up, because Trey is very opinionated on Stephen A. Smith. To me, I just lump him in the category from his job of Skip Bayless and Emmanuel Acho and Ryan Clark and Robert Griffin III. To me, they're all kind of the same. Scream at the top of your lungs, take hot takes. There's not really any nuance to what they have to say. It's black and white. I'm not talking racially speaking. I'm talking in terms of how you see things. I believe life is more in the gray in a lot of areas. But when you're talking about the overarching perspective, when it comes to anybody on that, there is one thing that just jumps out to me about athletes, and that is take what they say with a grain of salt, especially when there's competition that's at work. Because so often, athletes have this idea of, here's what I think. Listen to me, which is why for us, it's time to get into what he said and what he meant.
The best place to find true insight is in a press conference.
He cares about the players. We've got a true veteran that's been in this game a long time. He really wanted this opportunity.
It's not a media scrum.
They found a way to persevere through it. They didn't get down. They didn't start pointing fingers. They all looked at themselves in the mirror and said, hey, we're going to figure out what it takes. The least important thing in a game is to score at halftime, right?
It's listening to the Fast Lane dissect what's really being said by your favorite players, coaches, and administrators.
In the 40-minute game, no one cares. You got to be able to execute on both ends of the floor. Man, they play hard for 40 minutes.
It's time for what he or she said and what he or she meant.
The favorite one, by the way, of that new rejoin or that new segment intro, and we appreciate Trey for putting that together with TJ and Ty on our production staff and all the great work they do between that and the audiograms at Fastlane, Edlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The best one is Richie McKay, because, when he gets into his cliche mode, you know what I'm talking about, TJ, by the way. Like, I love Richie McKay, yes, but there are times where he is absolutely feeding you gourmet cliches. Is that an appropriate term for it?
No, all the time. When I was in the press conference with Richie, it was always something along those lines.
So there's what Richie McKay does, which is always praiseworthy. Look, that's his personality anyway. He tries to keep things level-headed. He does not feed into the hot take idea when it comes to media availability and press conferences. Like, so much of what he discussed was building up toward the Conference USA tournament the entire basketball season, and it clearly proved to be right because they played their best ball late outside of the loss on senior day to Kennesaw State. So I get that. But when we're tying it into NASCAR right now, let's keep this in mind. What he said and what he meant is here for a much different reason. It's to explain when drivers are thinking something. And really, when it comes to post-race, like, it's the beauty of NASCAR. And I think our guest around 525 today, Michael Massey of FrontStretch.com, is the one who made this point on the most recent Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast about how cool it is that in NASCAR, if you're a media credential member, you can go up to any driver or crew member or crew chief immediately after the race. Like, there's no cooling off period. Whereas in other sports, you do get a lot of the time, like Liberty football and basketball, for example. We wait for them. They go back to the locker room. Sometimes they change, maybe not fully, but at least they take their pads off. And oftentimes it's done strategically because it allows them to cool off after the heat of the moment. And particularly after losses or emotional wins, sometimes it gets dampered down to a level that's more suitable for what the brand wants to promote. NASCAR is different. The rawness and the realness. But it's why we have to come in, of course, to help with what he said and what he meant, to explain drivers why they have emotional responses afterwards. I don't fault drivers for their responses, but it is comical to hear what they have to say. So Joey Logano was racing on older tires, and he did all the blocking he could at North Wilkesboro, which, by the way, deserves to have a race date on the NASCAR schedule. Personally, I don't really care whether it's a points-paying event or it's not a points-paying event. I think it should be. More on that in a little bit. But I think it should be because of what it's done. But afterwards, there's the heat of the moment, there's Joey Logano, and there's frustration. And that's why the comments of what he said afterwards. First of all, he's mad at Christopher Bell for how Bell raced him. And he was willing to go so far as to, well, he wants to show Christopher Bell what fair racing really is.
It is what it is. I don't know. I mean, sure. He did it good enough that I couldn't get back to him because I was going to show him what fair was. I just couldn't get there. Just couldn't get there with the tires. I couldn't get away fast enough. It took me 6-7 laps after that restart to get rolling again. And then he passed too many cars there the first couple laps, and then he was there.
That was Joey Logano speaking with FrontStretch.com and other media members after the race at Bristol. Show Christopher Bell what fair is. Dude, what, racing hard? Like, we saw it before, to your guy, by the way, TJ, at Darlington a couple of years ago, where Christopher Bell is nudging William Byron out of the way to get the victory. And mentioned that if Byron tried to get retribution, then there would be more retribution coming back to William Byron. This is literally a what's good for the goose is good for the gander type analogy if you're an old school person that uses that. But the point is, it's kind of I wouldn't call it tongue in cheek, but it is kind of hypocritical may be a strong word, but take it with a grain of salt from someone like Joey Logano, TJ, because after the moment, drivers are heated, but even more so when you race other people aggressively. I don't know what leverage you have when Christopher Bell didn't even race Joey Logano aggressively. He just put on regular NASCAR moves, which is make it really hard to pass the driver once you get the lead and to kind of use the driver up if the driver's in front of you, but is on older tires, which to me is, again, I'm not a NASCAR expert like the pit crew members and the people that work on the cars, but I've followed it for, a couple decades here and I'm a fan. And the sense is, from my perspective, there is nothing outlandish from a NASCAR standpoint. This is merely somebody being heated after the moment. Meanwhile, the other part to this is, Joey Logano then goes into sarcastic mode afterwards. And again, we're kind of dissecting it because in Joey Logano's defense, he cooled off. And then Monday, Tuesday speaks with the media much more level-headed. And after seeing the replay reviews and getting a chance to digest his thoughts, he was a lot more reasonable about the way the race ended. But in the heat of the moment, here's what he had to say about how he would race Christopher Bell.
Oh, I just race him the same way. That's all it is. I mean, like I said, we race for $1 million. I get it. But we race each other every week. And we're like elephants. We don't forget anything.
Joey Logano speaking with Front Stretch after the race. Okay, it's $1 million, but I'm going to race him the same way he raced me. Well, here's the thing. Back to the William Byron situation with your guy, TJ. Joey Logano has proven with William Byron and others that he's going to race them aggressively, hard, and make it difficult to pass. So if Christopher Bell's doing that to him, we're just going to get the same Joey Logano? I mean, I don't really get where the news is if you're Joey Logano, or what statement you're making when you're going to race the guy the same way that you would have raced him regardless of the situation.
No, for sure. I just think at the heat of the moment, I think Joey's just mad because, as he said, he couldn't get past him. The tires wouldn't let him. And so the frustration,
yes,
it really got to him. And if you know Logano can, when he gets frustrated, he turns all red and he really lets it out. We saw younger Joey Logano was a lot worse back in the day.
It's kind of like me in the studio sometimes. You got a dose of that, a week or two ago, right?
Yes. What was it? What was it? You were waiting in Aldi, right? And you were almost late, I believe it was. No, that was a few weeks ago. No. You got stuck in traffic.
Yes.
You got stuck in traffic.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, and you were angry.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
yes. I was one step away from having to call Trost Law at 777-HURT. And maybe other people, for a different reason, having to call because they could have been on the wrong end of a situation. But, having kids, practicing my religious Christian faith, praying a lot more, trying to use those as strength mechanisms to have the strength to calm down. I'm not perfect. Got to get my usher on for a second in the fast lane. But thank God that God has
forgiveness is more than saying sorry.
And yes, I'm probably going to have to ask for forgiveness when I get to the pearly gates for using the Lord, my Lord and Savior, with a Just Friends soundbite. But the point of the matter is, you learn things when you calm down over a period of time. And what Joey Logano said as a driver was frustration at Christopher Bell, his fellow race car driver. What he meant to a large extent was, I'm a competitor. I'm mad that this other competitor raced me the way that I would have raced. And so I need an outlet with which to express my disappointment. And in the heat of the moment, it's going to come out relatively unfiltered. There weren't tons of expletives, which happens with drivers after the race. Again, I try to, act more, give them more forgiveness. We're not going to play the soundbite this time, but I try to give them a little bit more forgiveness in the heat of the moment. Some people are not that way. I've been in the heat of the moment before, as TJ just gave us, an old Usher moment in the fast lane and helped attribute. I have my moments too. However, when you have a chance to cool off, that's the part for Joey Logano where he cools off and understands what's going on. And the one thing I would say this much is, it doesn't take away from the fact that North Wilkesboro was actually a really strong race, very entertaining, one that you should remember if you're a fan as being something where you go, wow, this really provided the spark of action that you want to see out of a future race and out of a future event. Now, we did an InsaneRadioDeals.com fast take on this earlier today, and that is, what's the role of North Wilkesboro? And Joey Logano afterwards take his with like a shaker of salt.
Bill said this was the best short track in NASCAR right now. Do you agree with that? With a gimmick caution, yeah, sure.
I mean, of course. That's because Joey Logano's upset because the caution flew, it reset the pit cycles, and it ended up costing him a chance to get to victory lane at North Wilkesboro. But from a raw quality of racing standpoint, are we at the point now where this is the best short track in NASCAR?
Bill said this was the best short track in NASCAR
Whoops,
right now.
we played that one again. We didn't mean the Joey Logano soundbite. We meant this particular soundbite, and that being the fact that Alex Bowman brought this up. Tires. Are they a factor or not?
I think tires mattered a lot more than last year, a lot more than we probably expected them to. So I think that's a really good thing for sure. I think that's what we all want. So it's a step in the right direction.
And we mentioned that about the quality of racing at North Wilkesboro from Alex Bowman because tires were a factor. And it was exhilarating to watch real racing for once on a short track. And I'm not as keen on the idea. Frontstretch.com introduced the debate, and one of their colleagues and reporters, Michael Massey, who's, by the way, covering the Indy 500 this weekend, we'll ask him about that too, brought that up with the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast the other day. And there's a big debate. Should North Wilkesboro now be a points-paying race? I mean, to me, if it is, just take out the Bristol Spring race because Bristol is not as exciting as it's been in prior years, other than the one race last year in the spring with the tire fall off. It's owned by the same company, and from a raw economics business control standpoint, because it's all about
lots of power,
that you have to find a way to get the tracks aligned on that sense. But Alex Bowman elaborated, should this be a points-paying race himself?
I think a points race would probably look about like All-Star did, just with more cars. I don't think it's going to change a lot. I'm sure this place will wear out as time goes. So, it's a good thing for sure.
Good racing for sure. Doesn't matter to him if it's a points-paying race. I know you're supposed to have a real firm opinion on this, but personally, I don't. And it's not necessarily the CYA, cover your backside, myriad of factors that go into this. It's more the fact that you're going to basically be taking another race away. I think we're stuck at the same number of dates on the NASCAR schedule. So do we have 2 exhibition races and 36 meaningful races? Do you add one in the regular season? Do you create another all-star event and go to 35 in the regular season? To me, I'm watching the racing regardless because I want to ultimately see good quality racing. Now, when there's a points race and there's that whole scenario on top of it, I do think theoretically it should add more to racing, but it doesn't always do that. However, what does add to racing is when it's for a phenomenal cause, which is why Easy Mobility Solutions in Roanoke, whose mission is to make sure people live the most healthy, best life possible, and Lynchburg Ready Mix, who personally they've been impacted by type 1 diabetes, they are proud to support the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for the type 1 diabetes experience. Come join us this coming Monday at 8 a.m. downtown Lynchburg in front of the train station and the restaurant down there. Really awesome race. It's for a phenomenal cause. You can run it. If you beat me, if Michael's running it, Michael Craig, I'm sure he'll go ahead and get a shout out on the morning warm up with Trey. If he's running it, I'll go ahead and put his name in there. There will probably be others that do this as well, and looking forward to it. If you're there, Trey will give you a shout out on the morning warm up if you beat me and the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for the type 1 diabetes experience. But the best part is all proceeds benefit the type 1 diabetes experience. Register now at tide.org. That's de.org. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to table the Fast Five at 5-ish till after Michael Massey of frontstretch.com. We've got some comments on that, but we want to get to him immediately because we're hot off the discussion of NASCAR, taking what drivers have to say with a grain of salt, and he is at the Indy 500. So when we return in the Fast Lane, we will connect with Michael Massey of frontstretch.com, then the Fast Five at 5-ish, and then Canes Game 2 tonight, which you can hear on the VTR and Sports app at 7:30 p.m., and the rest of their series against Florida. What do they need to do to bounce back? Stanley Cup winning NHL executive Neil Smith will chime in on that as well. Busy edition of the Fast Lane today, and keep your feedback coming. Fast Lane Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Hi, I'm Robert O'Brien with Lynchburg Ready Mix. At age 7, our son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Our world changed instantly. We had to monitor blood sugar, count carbs prior to every meal. It was overwhelming. Thankfully, groups like Tide provide support when your world changes. Their programs and resources help people with type 1 diabetes live their best life. So please join Lynchburg Ready Mix at the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for Tide so individuals like our son can still live an awesome life.
The feel of the beach is perfect, relaxing with family and friends. Bonding over memorable meals fresh from the seas. It's a beach experience, and it's in our backyard at 801 Raw Bar in downtown Lynchburg. They're family-owned and family-operated, bringing you that relaxing beach house vibe while you enjoy the freshest seafood from our region, including raw oysters, king crabs, and snow crab. Not really a seafood person? Try their fresh handcrafted burgers, subs, pizza, and salads. Step into the relaxing beach house vibe at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Big Boys Guns can thankfully say we serve Central and Southwest Virginia as we've done for over a decade. We've learned some people know exactly what they want, while some prefer a helping hand. That's why our staff won't judge your knowledge. We're just excited to greet you and help you in finding that perfect firearm or accessory, because everyone is at a different stage of responsible gun ownership. Our advice is free, and we even have concealed carry classes. When you're ready for responsible gun ownership, come see us. Big Boys Guns on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Few things are more majestic than nature as long as it's outside your house. Unfortunately, when wildlife gets inside your chimney, it leads to problems for your chimney and your house. Prevent this problem with Black Goose Chimney Service. They provide one-time solutions to ensure the wildlife stays outside your home. And if you've had wildlife inside your house, Black Goose Chimney Service can deal with the aftermath and make sure they don't return. Call Black Goose Chimney Service and visit them at blackgoose.net.
Start your Memorial Day with a fun, family-friendly event. Join us Memorial Day morning at the Depot Plaza in downtown Lynchburg for a 10K run or 2-mile walk, followed by food and fun. Come for a healthy way to honor the holiday. Most importantly, your participation benefits Tide, the Type 1 Diabetes Experience. Tide supports individuals living with Type 1 and Type 2 diabetes so they can live their best lives. Register now at Tide.org. That's T1DE.org to join us for the 2025 Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for the Type 1 Diabetes Experience.
Around the Table with Vicki. Just like gathering around the dinner table with loved ones and friends, we're here to share stories, insight, and inspiration. When I designed that daytime center, we went back way in the 50s. And so we've got some old-timey pictures on the wall, talking about root beer and old Coca-Cola.
Because that is what makes daytime so special. We have so many people that come into the property and they're like, I would have never imagined this being here. I've never seen anything like it. I can tell you from running social media pages, we put out posts about it. I have people from all across the nation writing in and say, hey, is there anything similar to this in
Cleveland,
my
Ohio,
state of Oregon
or
or whatever?
Right.
And that makes us feel really
It
great.
does. Pull up a seat and join our conversation. Around the Table with Vicki is my new local radio show and podcast discussing leadership, entrepreneurship, philanthropy, faith, and family. Saturdays at 10 a.m. on WIQO.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
At Easy Mobility Solutions, we're proud to support the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for the Type 1 Diabetes Experience. For over a decade, Easy Mobility Solutions has helped individuals rediscover their freedom through our proven process: evaluate, educate, empower. Whether it's wheelchairs, stair lifts, platform lifts, or home accessibility modifications, we're here to make mobility easy. Join Easy Mobility Solutions on Race Day and support the Type 1 Diabetes Experience. Register at Tide.org. That's T1DE.org.
Experience, reputation, growth. These are what make Brownstone Properties the area's most trusted property management company. With the recent addition of 15 new communities at Smith Mountain Lake, we have expanded our HOA portfolio to over 80 communities across the region. Combine these with over 2,500 residential units, and it's easy to see why our reputation and business continue to grow. Let our experience work for you. Visit us today at brownstoneproperties.com or 3720 Old Forest Road in Lynchburg.
From the blue waters of the Chesapeake Bay to the hills of Tennessee, listen to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle on the VTRN Sports app. Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I don't know if this is breaking news because it's not really the biggest type of news. And sometimes people say breaking news and it's really not that big of a deal. But the tire company that is the official tire of NASCAR, IndyCar, and F1 will be bringing their blimps to the race weekends in Monaco. Wonder how long it's going to take to get the blimp over there. And of course, Indianapolis and Charlotte as well for the Brickyard event at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Indy 500, and of course, the World 600 by a name that we won't mention because they're not a sponsor of ours, but whatever. It's going to be there this weekend. Now, somebody who will get to witness one of those in person at Indianapolis is our next guest from frontstretch.com, Michael Massey, who is with us in the fast lane. I'm mostly curious, Michael, can you see, or maybe there's even a way to get the blimp to say, Ed Lane's a pimp, as Ice Cube would want us to say. I don't know if you get that reference from his great hit song, Today Was a Good Day, but is there any way you can pull some strings and the blimp have something that may be baffling to like 100,000 people in Indianapolis, but we'll get a chuckle out of at least a select few?
Unfortunately, Ed, I don't think I have that kind of pull around here. Not with the Goodyear folks. I've been critical of them in NASCAR in the past, and it might come back to bite me one of these days when I need to request something like that.
Yes. That is, something you have to worry about that we do not. When it comes to NASCAR, you have to keep a filter going. Meanwhile, I think it was you who on the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast earlier this week, I listen at like first thing in the morning on my run, so sometimes I get the insight, not the great parts, of course, but some of it mixed up occasionally. Was it you who brought up the point that one of the beauties of NASCAR is that we get drivers immediately after the event, and you can just put a microphone or a camera or both in front of them and get anything you want, which is why we got a different version of Joey Logano and his take on Christopher Bell's racing after the race at North Wilkesboro compared to Monday or Tuesday when he had a chance to actually cool off and digest everything.
So I think it was Mike Neff that made that point. Actually, I asked him to sub for me on Happy Hour this week. Which you should still listen to, even if I'm not on it. Because I was at a Indiana Fever game watching Caitlin Clark be amazing, but still lose. It reminds me of LeBron in the early Cleveland Cavalier days, kind of. But yeah, it is a good point that, like, in what other sport, I mean, I guess you see, like, a TV will interview a coach or something like right after a game, kind of heat of the moment, but not sometimes athletes. I get like the winners usually. You're not getting like the losers. That's the difference. I think in NASCAR, they're talking to maybe the top 10 finishers afterwards, and none of those guys just lost and aren't happy with, even if they had a good points day, they're not necessarily happy, especially in an all-star race where all that really matters is winning. So yeah, like I get it for Logano to be mad, like heat of the moment, especially like when you hear, and that's another thing, we hear these guys on the radios like lose their mind sometime. You just gotta take a step back and remember, like, it's heat of the moment. If you were in that situation, you'd be losing it too. So like we do get that vantage point, but at the same time, talking about it later, like now he's had PR to kind of coach him on what to say, tell him what direction to go. So there's a little bit of two sides to that coin there. We saw a little more of what he really thought out of the car, I think.
So you mentioned PR and NASCAR. I mean, every sport's got it. I call it maybe too much of a necessary evil at times. But from Joey Logano and backing off of it, and you mentioned being coached on how to properly respond. He's not as candid as like a Denny Hamlin or a Kyle Busch, but he's not shy of speaking his mind either as a NASCAR driver. Do you get the impression, though, that maybe backing off of this and trying to tamper down the situation might have been the fact that if he had PR in his ear, it might have coincided with the knowledge that there were going to be big changes coming to the overall organization because Logano is a Penske driver. And because of that, that organization already seeing what's in the forecast, which we saw yesterday with the breaking news of the leadership reshuffling, they're trying to damper down anything so that there's not more of a storm than there already was going to be.
Well, yeah, I think, with the way the rest of the week is played out, Joey Logano's post-race comments are very, very low on the priority list of the Penske PR. Like, considering all the other stuff that happened, considering that, when the news broke that the Penske guys were getting these penalties, you literally had PR, like Scott McLaughlin was doing an event with Pennzoil out on the Indy golf course here, and the PR literally pulled him away after the penalties were announced. So he wasn't able to do that event. And there you had just until today, till media day today, you hadn't gotten to talk to the Penske guys at all on the IndyCar side. So that was very fascinating. But yes, it has been damage control. Like, the PR for Team Penske this week has earned every bit of their paycheck.
So you brought up the Penske situation. There's the IndyCar angle and there's the NASCAR angle. While we're on the subject of NASCAR, we'll get to the whole Indianapolis 500 side of things in a moment because you're there for frontstretch.com, Michael, covering that as Michael Massey is with us in the fast lane. But from the NASCAR side of things, your colleague Tom Bowles wrote about this at frontstretch.com. Am I reasonable to or maybe am I reacting too quickly? With my first reaction to seeing that one of the people dismissed at Penske amid the cars that failed inspection for the Indy 500 was Tim Cindric, my initial reaction is, all right, is this going to create quickly a cascade effect where Austin Cindric is out of a ride and they may be targeting Ross Chastain, Corey Heim, or someone with more talent now that there's nobody tying the most underperforming of the three Penske Cup drivers to that organization?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, my mind went there immediately as well. And I think the good news for Austin Cindric is that he has won a race already this year. He's already in the playoffs, but also he's running way better. I think his performance has been on par this year with his teammates, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney. Maybe not quite as good as Blaney, but like Logano has not been that great this year. He won a race, but for the longest time, he didn't have a top 10 in the season. So Cindric, you could argue he's kind of having a better year than Logano. So I think from that aspect, how can you turn the guy loose when he's performing the best he can in your cars? If it was this time last year, the year before, I'd say like, ooh, Austin Cindric better watch out. At the same time that like he's got to keep performing, and now he's just like any other driver. You got to keep performing in order to keep your job, or else somebody's going to fill it up real quick. And like you said, there will be a lot of good free agents available. It seems like a Kyle Busch or a Denny Hamlin, maybe a Tyler Reddick. All those guys are looking for deals. I don't see any major changes, but you never know now that the ride is out there.
Well, and are we at the point now, and I mean, we've seen it with the next gen car where essentially you need to be either in Chevrolet, you've got to be with Hendrick. If you're in Toyota, you've got to be Gibbs or 2311, which is basically default Gibbs. And then in Ford, you've got to either be Penske or their fourth car, Wood Brothers Racing's Josh Berry. That right now we kind of got a crystallized grouping of those and then everybody else in NASCAR. And for people on the outside of that grouping, if there's a ride that pops up inside the, what's the mafia term where you're part of the family, so to speak. But if you get a chance to get into the family, you're taking advantage of it.
Oh yeah. You got to be like, I guess you would call it like the house car or something like that for each manufacturer. Because like when they came out with the next gen car in 2022, it didn't seem that way because you had Trackhouse Racing and RFK Racing and some of these other guys pop up and win some races and be competitive. And you mentioned Ross Chastain a little bit. Now, like Chastain's in a situation where Trackhouse doesn't have the speed that it had back then, and he's doing everything he can just to get the finishes he can. You've seen like just as time's gone on with this car, those big teams with the big manufacturer support have pulled ahead to the point they've won every race this season. There's not been like an underdog. Josh Berry with the Wood Brothers is kind of the only real underdog of the story. But like you said, he's in his car is literally prepared in the Team Penske shop. So yeah, you got to get with one of those teams because, Trackhouse is falling behind. RFK, we thought they were going to be right there competing for the top 4 spot. No more. Penske is kind of pulled away from them. So, yeah, if you're, I don't know, a Kyle Busch or maybe a Chris Buescher or Ross Chastain, like, you got to be thinking, how do I get in one of those teams? But if we get a new manufacturer, maybe that could change as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You brought up the new manufacturer. Sounds like you're teasing something for us, Michael. As Michael Massey of FrenchStretch.com at M_Massey22 on Twitter and Instagram with us here in the Fast Lane. Are you confident? How soon would that happen? I mean, 2026 seems like it'd be a little soon. We looking at 27, 28? Where are we looking about maybe the potential for some kind of shakeup where a new manufacturer might come in? It might be a chance for teams to, drivers to, here we go, dodge their current situations.
Yeah, well, so Dodge is supposed to come into the Truck Series. You heard that happen, and then there's been like no more word about that since, like who would even go over with them in the Truck Series. But like last time Dodge came into NASCAR, they started with trucks and kind of worked their way up. Toyota did that, and so I would think that would be the way. So yeah, like for the Cup Series, 2026 ain't happening for it. But I would think that a few years down the road, maybe like 28, 29, 30, something like that, you could see like a Dodge in there. But I also heard this week the same thing that you hear every couple of years, and that's Honda interest. And I know they're I don't know, them and IndyCar kind of have a on again, off again relationship. I feel like where they love each other for a little bit, then they want to split up and all that. But maybe it's just a little leverage. Maybe that's why a rumor dropped this week that they're like, we'll just go to NASCAR. But who knows? But we do hear that Honda is going to come every couple of years. It doesn't happen. They've been teasing us for so long that I'm gonna need a little more before I bite into that one.
Sounds like those relationships in high school and college, on again, off again, except we're talking about professional organizations, which is where it really gets to be comical. Michael, we'll kind of make that convenient transition from NASCAR to the Indy 500, which you're covering for FrenchStretch.com this weekend. The big story that pertains to both circuits is Kyle Larson's attempt, outside of Penske, obviously. The big story is Kyle Larson's attempt to pull off the double. Are you cooler after seeing Kyle Larson struggle in Indy 500 qualifying? Is this more of a, hey, let's check 2 boxes, but he's less likely to win either weekend? What are your thoughts on the chances of Kyle Larson to win one or both of these races?
Yeah, I mean, the Coke 600, I feel like you got to put him as if he makes it to the track, by the time the green flag drops, he's a favorite to win it. One of the favorites to win it, just because he's great at NASCAR. He's got one of the best teams, best pit crews, everything. So like, why wouldn't he be a favorite? But the IndyCar side, I'm just not seeing it this year. It seems like, they added that hybrid, which is about 100 more pounds to the car. It seems like conditions have been fishier this year. We saw him, he's wrecked twice, once in the test and once in practice. He just hasn't seemed to have gotten as good of a handle. That being said, he's got a great car. His teammate, Pato O'Ward, starting on the front row. If everything goes right, if he just survives, because that's part of the Indy 500, I feel like it's just, if you're there at the end, you got a shot. So he really just needs to survive, not make any dumb mistakes. And like, I don't think he's going to win it. I don't have that, I put it very low odds that he would win the Indy 500, but the guy does love to prove people wrong and show how great he is sometimes.
Speaking of doubles, and we're going to wrap it up coming full circle with Michael Massey of FrenchStretch.com, looking ahead to the Indy 500 and the Coke 600, the 2 bigger events domestically in motorsports this upcoming Memorial Day weekend. You're talking about doubles. What about Penske pulling the double off, rebounding from clearly wanting to prove the qualifying runs, which were tainted by inspection, which, by the way, doesn't bother me because I just kind of think that's motorsports in general. Everybody's pushing the envelope. But Penske, what's the odds that they are able to pull off the double? Granted, different drivers, but the same organization getting 2 big victories this weekend.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the inspection thing. Was people were pointing out that Newgarden's car from last year had the same deal with the attenuator, and that's in the museum right now. I'm sitting here thinking, I bet every car in that museum has something illegal about it.
Yep.
That's why they won. That's racing, man. But yeah, Penske going for the double. Like, I don't think you can count these guys out. These, especially like Joseph Newgarden. Could he win a third? Absolutely. They're going to be very much in contention, even with 2 of them starting in the last row. You can never count Penske out at a place where the guys' cars have literally won 20 times here. He's almost won a fifth of the Indy 500s. Put that into perspective. That's crazy. As for the Coke 600, I think Ryan Blaney could give him a good shot to win it. He's won it before. But it's the longest race of the year, a race where the endurance of the car comes into play. And one of the biggest things holding Blaney back this season has been parts failures. So I could see a deal where like Blaney's leading and the engine blows or something goes wrong and keeps him. That seems to be the story of his year so far this year. But the speed wise, the double for them completely possible for Penske. It's just a matter of if circumstances play into it.
Well, the circumstances were good enough for us to get great insight today from Michael Massey of frontstretch.com. Michael, we appreciate it from the bottom of our heart, giving you the perspective, you giving us the perspective that our listeners enjoy and appreciate on the Brickyard event, the Indy 500, and the Charlotte event, the World 600, which has a soda named after it, but we're petulant like that in the fast lane. Thank you for your time. Enjoy Indianapolis, and we appreciate you covering both with us today in the fast lane.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Ed. This is the greatest Indy 500, greatest race in the world. I'll go to my grave saying that. I look forward to talking to you next time.
Yes, we do. Michael Massey of frontstretch.com with us here in the fast lane. We'll take a break. Yes, I know I'm telegraphing it, but we're explaining things. We may do 2 Fast 5 at 5-ishes tomorrow because we're so far behind on getting that insight because we don't want to waste the opportunity to catch up with not Neil Smith. He got stuck in traffic. So to get the video perspective for our audience that's watching as well, his colleague, Vic Morin, back with us when we return. This is the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Get more at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Get the best selection with more Hondas, more Hyundais, all your favorite makes and models. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now. That's way more than any other dealer in the area. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume all in one location on the Motor Mile. The Used Car Superstore is your one stop for cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. We finance your future, not your past. You're a valued customer and not just a number on the Motor Mile. Get more with straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Over 900 vehicles on the lot ready to choose from. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
At Easy Mobility Solutions, we're proud to support the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for the Type 1 diabetes experience. For over a decade, Easy Mobility Solutions has helped individuals rediscover their freedom through our proven process: evaluate, educate, empower. Whether it's wheelchairs, stair lifts, platform lifts, or home accessibility modifications, we're here to make mobility easy. Join Easy Mobility Solutions on race day and support the Type 1 diabetes experience. Register at TIDE.org. That's T1,
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting? Windows that are impossible to open and close and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
Hi, I'm Matt with Fleet Feet Roanoke. I've enjoyed working with Ed Lane and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. But when they sold their Roanoke station, I was skeptical the partnership could still provide value. Months later, I'm thankful that Ed took the time to meet with me, discuss the right solutions, and a plan to invite his audience to Fleet Feet Roanoke. Now we're able to build a connection with that audience thanks to Ed's creativity. Stop by and see us at Fleet Feet Roanoke to learn more. We'd love to get to know you.
Email info@virginiatalkradionetwork.com to start growing your business.
You know Linex of Lynchburg for their high-performing bed liners with over 30 years of loyal service to our community. Did you know Linex Lynchburg is also your one-stop shop for truck and off-road accessories? That team at Linex has you covered for all your needs under one roof. Give your truck the look you really want. Go see Grant at Linex of Lynchburg, 1313 Thomas Jefferson Road in Forest.
Join the Lynchburg Hillcats at Bank of the James Stadium this summer for any of your favorite nightly promotions. New this year are Senior Sluggers Tuesdays, where members of the Silver Sluggers Club get in free, and College Pride Night, where those wearing college apparel receive a discounted ticket on Wednesdays. As always, we'll have Thirsty Thursdays and giveaways and fireworks on the weekend, and free admission for Kids Club members on Sunday. Get your tickets today at lynchburg-hillcats.com.
Hi, I'm Robert O'Brien with Lynchburg Ready Mix. At age 7, our son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Our world changed instantly. We had to monitor blood sugar, count carbs prior to every meal. It was overwhelming. Thankfully, groups like Tide provide support when your world changes. Their programs and resources help people with type 1 diabetes live their best life. So please join Lynchburg Ready Mix at the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for Tide, so individuals like our son can still live an awesome life.
Big Boys Guns can thankfully say we serve Central and Southwest Virginia as we've done for over a decade. We've learned some people know exactly what they want, while some prefer a helping hand. That's why our staff won't judge your knowledge. We're just excited to greet you and help you in finding that perfect firearm or accessory, because everyone is at a different stage of responsible gun ownership. Our advice is free, and we even have concealed carry classes. When you're ready for responsible gun ownership, come see us. Big Boys Guns on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Hey, this is Virginia Tech analyst and former Hokies tight end Mike Burnham. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Which one is more challenging to overcome? This is a good question, and it can be applied to all sports, but we'll get the hockey expertise right now from Vic Morin of the NHL Wraparound podcast. And I know they discussed this to a certain extent on the podcast that dropped today, recapping Edmonton coughing up a 3-1 lead last night, the theme of the night last night, because in New York, the Knicks coughed up a 14-point lead they had with around the 2-minute mark of the fourth quarter. They might need a 2-minute warning there that the game still is going on in those particular places. But Vic, what's more challenging to overcome? Is it coughing up a lead like the Edmonton Oilers, or is it maybe a shock to the system type loss that Florida inflicted, carrying over the Game 7 momentum in Toronto Sunday night to their date in Raleigh this past Tuesday, a couple days ago?
I mentioned it on the podcast today that I believe the Hurricanes are in a more daunting spot than are the Oilers, because Edmonton put forth 40 really strong minutes to take that lead into the third period, and they just got undone by some careless penalties. I think in the Hurricanes case, they saw what the Florida Panthers are all about. They can beat you in open ice. They can beat you in the alley. They can beat you physically. They know just enough how far they can go. They can push it right to the line. They can get you off your game. They know where to step over it if they have to. They always play with a chip on their shoulder. And so the Hurricanes are not going to be able to out-physical them. They're going to have a fast start, a smart start, and a heavy start, as heavy as they can be. They've got to play as much of the first period as they possibly can in the in the Florida end. And then, quite frankly, Freddie Anderson, who was not bad in game one at all, but he still has to outplay Sergei Bobrovsky. I think this is a very daunting test. It's not impossible by any stretch, because Florida has lost games in the playoffs. They lost 4 in the first 2 series. So they can be beaten, but you've got to have a really buttoned-up effort tonight, because if they go down 0-2 into Sunrise, I don't see them winning 4 out of 5 to take this series.
How much of that also goes into the fact that Florida, they're the defending Stanley Cup champions and playing like it, with especially what they have played with their last 2 games. And again, this is novice hockey fan talking to seasoned hockey expert Vic Morin of the NHL Wraparound podcast here in the Fast Lane. But, as much as you play with playoff intensity, it looked like Florida has found an entirely different level their last 2 games.
I think you can see what a professional unit that this is, that there is a belief system. They think, and it's a mindset, that there is nothing the opposition can throw at them that they cannot handle. They may lose a game here and there, but the way they carry themselves, the efficiency, the ability to roll 4 lines, strong defense, strong in goal, this is a real tough out. And I'm not sure anybody can do it.
It's hard to pull that off. We've talked about Rob Brind'Amour, the Carolina Hurricanes coach, and how he's been able to instill, a right level of physicality, the right level of intensity to start. Is this the one coaching matchup where he may have met his match?
I don't think it's a coaching matchup. I think it's a personnel and the ability to execute, because Brind'Amour certainly knows what his team needs to do. And it's like every playoff series. The coach can put out a great game plan, but unless you can execute it and work through the variables and intangibles that take place during a game, doesn't matter who's behind the bench.
Vic Morin, NHL Wraparound podcast host, hanging out with us today here in the Fast Lane, and we've referenced what's going on with Carolina against Florida. Is this I guess I'll bluntly ask this. Does Carolina come out tonight with the level of intensity they need and start a lot better and a lot faster and more crisp than a team that looked like they were coming off a long layoff on Tuesday night?
I think they have to come out, like I said, fast, hard, and smart, sustain the action, get that first goal, play ahead, but also don't panic if you fall behind. I think if they stick to their game, throw pucks at the net, create traffic, they should be okay. But you also have to remember the team on the other bench, that they have seen this before. They've been to back-to-back finals. And with the addition of Brad Marchand and just the ability to have 4 strong lines that are all filling roles during the course of the playoffs, it's daunting for them. The Hurricanes are going to have to play their best hockey from here forward to be able to compete in this series and potentially win it. I don't know if they can.
Wow. So you have doubts of whether Carolina can pull that off. Then are you forecasting a shorter series than you guys expected when you mentioned, Florida in 6, maybe 7 games when you were talking initially on your preview for the series with Craig Button earlier this week on the NHL Wraparound podcast?
I believe if the Hurricanes can win tonight, this series maybe goes 6. If the Panthers win, this could be short, because I would certainly expect them to take at least 1 of 2 down in Sunrise and look to polish this thing off and try to get as much rest as possible in advance of a final. But that's putting the cart before the horse. It's one game, but I think we've also seen enough hockey that what characteristics each team has, what they're capable of. And when you see a defending champion play as well as the Panthers have the last 2 games, it's like a uh-oh to the other 3 teams that are left.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, you look at that. That was what caught my attention. It's just how fast Florida has started, how together they've looked. It doesn't look like they've had any weak lines at all. And, it's one of those where, and again, maybe this is a sports cliche for a reason, Vic, but oftentimes the best athletes, whether that's individuals or teams, they can play at a high level. But like Carolina might be finding out with Florida, what makes them champions is that when the rubber meets the road, they can almost tap into a different level that is really hard to match.
It is, because they may have to beat the Panthers at their game. And that means getting pucks in, being heavy, winning 50-50 battles against a team whose entire makeup is made up of that, of winning those 50-50 pucks, doing the little things that you have to do. We've talked about the Carolina penalty killing the entire playoffs, how good it's been going back into the regular season. Well, guess what? 2 out of 3 for the Panthers in game 1. Their power play is 40% on the road. Actually, 41%, 40.9. And their penalty killing during the playoffs just went past the Hurricanes. So when you've got all of these things going together, I'm not saying that it's going to be sustained, but when you see these things coming together, this is the profile of what a Stanley Cup champion should look like. And the Panthers know what it is. They know it from 2 years ago from going to the final. They know it last year from winning it. And now defending it, you can see just what a unique unit this is and what a Stanley Cup champion, defending champion looks like, and what a potential champion looks like.
Yeah, that's a good point about, what you're looking at with these two teams in the series. And it's almost the old adage of one knows how to push it across the line and the other's trying to find a way. And I mean, we got about 30 seconds, Vic, left for this, but that's where it gets to be real uneven. And you've got to find something in you that you don't really know how to access. Whereas Florida, clearly they know it and they've already shown it.
You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's one of the biggest tests that this team has, meaning the Carolina Hurricanes. You've got to try to win at their game. And at this time of year, leave it out all on the table. There's nothing to hold it for.
My man, Vic, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the type of saying that we love in the fast lane. By the way, you can get comfortable listening to the game tonight. We'll have it on the VTRN Sports app. 7:30 is when coverage begins, as we'll be carrying that plus game 2 of the Stars Oilers series tomorrow night as well. Meanwhile, when we return in the fast lane tomorrow, we'll recap it all. Vic, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Anytime, buddy.
Indeed. Vic Morin with us here, NHL Wraparound Podcast, as we wrap up the Fast Lane this afternoon. If you missed anything, you know where to go. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We might have 2 editions of the Fast 5 at 5-ish tomorrow. In the meantime, keep it locked. You know where to go. We'll be back 5 to 6 tomorrow afternoon. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports 93.3.